let's talk about how to create a really sustainable spiritual practice. Now, there are many reasons why you might want to develop a really strong personal spiritual practice, either for your own personal growth or for your mental health and wellness and beyond. There's so many benefits to having a good spiritual practice. So, I want to share with you 10 different things that you can do to kind of get that ball rolling. Now, I'm going to share all of these with you and I'm going to provide specific examples. My intention is not for you to do it all, certainly not for you to do it all at once, but rather to listen and get inspired and maybe pick one, maybe two things that you can start implementing right away. If there is one key to developing a consistent, sustainable practice, is to not do too much at once, to aim for consistency over perfection. Now, for the recovering perfectionists out there like myself, I'm going to say that one more time. We're not aiming for perfection, we're aiming for consistency. What is the one or two things that you know you can stick to and that you can aim for good enough for? There's this book I really love, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And in his newsletter, James Clear said, and I'm totally gonna paraphrase here, that a lot of people think the key to consistency is discipline, and that instead we should consider not discipline, but rather flexibility. If you are in a place where you're not able to go 100%, be super disciplined and do the things perfectly like you normally would have, can you do part of it? You know, if every day you are trying to do 100 push-ups and today you don't have 100 push-ups in you, rather than give up and not do the 100, maybe you do one or two push-ups. And that way you can keep that consistency going instead of aiming for that perfection, all or nothing mentality. So just a little something to keep in mind. Anyways, here we go. In no particular order, here are 10 things that you can start implementing right away to build your practice. Number one is starting with a really good morning routine. We all wake up and go to the bathroom and brush our teeth. Is there something that you can seamlessly weave into your morning routine that you can stick with? I used to have a very elaborate morning routine where I would do this daily ritual and call in my guides and energetically cleanse my space and myself, and I would light a candle and incense, and it was really elaborate and a really beautiful routine, but I wasn't able to keep it going for too long because it was just too much. It was too much for a daily practice, and so I scaled it back. Now, when I wake up, before I even get out of bed, I have a journal on my nightstand, and I like to journal. I do the morning pages practice from the Artist Way book. So that's what I'm referring to. I get up or I wake up and I journal 3 pages, and that kind of wakes me up a little bit more, and I'm in that space between sleepy and awake, and it's a way to clear my mind first thing in the morning and sort of reset with a blank slate as I go on about my day. So that's become a huge part of my morning routine. I also like to drink a cup of tea and kind of ease into my day. I have a morning prayer that I say out loud. And so there's just a few things that I do every single morning that just make me feel really grounded, that make me feel intentional, that make me feel clear. And that is a beautiful, very simple way to have a spiritual practice. 1 or 2, maybe 3 things early in the morning that you can do fairly quickly that make you feel really nourished. Okay, number 2, weekly check-ins. How often do we ask our friends and our relatives how they're doing and generally mean it? Like we're curious how they're doing, and yet we don't ask that to ourselves. Most of us don't, at least. So, a weekly check in is literally you sitting down with yourself, maybe in front of the mirror, and saying, "Hey, how are you?" And then take the time to really listen to yourself, to really tune into your body, to check in, to look inward and say, "How am I really doing? Am I fine? I've been saying I'm fine, but am I fine?" And if you're not, call it what it is. What are you feeling? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling delighted? Check in on yourself and be open and receptive and honest and willing to listen to yourself and to your body. Once you check in, you then have a choice. If you're not doing so well, are you going to do something about it? And you don't have to. Sometimes checking in on yourself and realizing you're not doing so well doesn't mean you have to necessarily take action. It could just be that you take a nap and you give yourself grace to do that. So, weekly check-ins, highly recommended. Number 3, daily meditation. Anybody who meditates knows that meditating can be really hard. Sitting perfectly still and trying to clear your mind, it is a skill. So, how do I meditate? I'm going to be honest with you. I do not meditate daily, but whenever I do find a tremendous difference. And it is just so beneficial. But when I meditate, what I like to do is sit down for a minimum of 20 minutes. You need to give yourself, it takes a good 20 minutes for you to get into a good groove. And what I like to do is a stillness meditation where I sit down and I try my very best to not move and focus on my breath and clear my mind to the best of my ability. But thoughts do come in all the time. So if you find that when you meditate, your mind is doing too much, okay, acknowledge that thought. And you may even in your mind say, "Okay, thought, I hear you. I'm going to put you in the bookshelf for later, but not for now." So it's a constant re-clearing and coming back to yourself and refocusing and focusing on your breath. It's a constant, "Oh, I got distracted. Let me refocus." Right? It's that cycle. And eventually you'll get better and faster at that cycle, but that's really what it is. Now you might wonder, okay, well, what's the point in that? I promise you, if you give it a try, there's something about being really still like that does something for the body and for the mind. I remember in one of my last meditations, I found a place of stillness that was so pure and warm, and I could feel the energy in my house. I began to be able to hear things that were really in the distance, like a cracking in the walls or the sound of the pipes, and even beyond that, it's like I could feel the energy of the house, and it's really calming. So that's a wonderful way to develop a strong spiritual practice, is to meditate. And once you kind of find that flow where you're doing it consistently, it'll become less and less about, fighting off distractions, and more about finding pockets of wisdom and insight in those moments of stillness and quiet. I have had plenty of meditations where in those moments of stillness, I've gotten an aha moment or a message from spirit or some sort of psychic or intuitive download. So, beautiful way to bring in more of that spirituality into your life. And to be clear, that does not require you to practice any religion. We're just talking about you being with yourself, being really still, and without even trying, allowing your body and your mind eventually to be open enough for you to receive whatever comes through. So there's no efforting necessary. All right, number 4, connecting with your deity, with your god or goddess, with a spiritual ally, with an angel, with a higher power. So, gosh, how do we do that? There's so many ways, and I wouldn't even get into all the many ways. But for me, connecting with I love working with Yemaya, the ocean goddess Yemaya, and I like to go to different bodies of waters and just listen to the water and say a few words out loud to her. I like to meditate, and as I sit down to meditate, I will set the intention that I am opening myself up to receive any messages from her. A good friend of mine reads to her deities. She, like, whatever book she's reading at the moment, she will go to the altar that she created for her deity. So actually, I'm going to sneak that in there. You can make an altar for yourself, for your deity, for whatever purpose, and interacting and engaging with that altar. Beautiful spiritual practice. Anyways, I have a friend who will go to her altar and read out loud to her deity, which I think is really, really beautiful. That brings me to number 5, offerings. What can you offer your deity or ancestors, right? Or your spiritual allies, that energy that you're working with, in exchange for their presence, for their energy, for that conversation, for that reciprocation. So in this example, my friend would read at her altar to her deity, and that was her offering. Her voice, her time, the reading of the pages, that was her offering to her deity. I like to offer Yemaya flowers from time to time. I'll buy white flowers and I'll put them in my house and I'll say it out loud, Yemaya, these are for you. An offering could be a drawing, a letter. An offering could be a song. The sky's the limit here of what you can give for that exchange, that energetic exchange with the divine intelligence that you're working with. All right, number 6, monthly new moon or full moon rituals. And there are a ton of resources out there for what you can do to celebrate the new and full moons and how you can work with the lunar cycles. So if you're curious about that, definitely do some research. Or better yet, if you want to join us at the Amaryllis Society, we do new moon rituals every month. And I'm constantly sharing all kinds of astrology and witchy hacks and tips and tricks for how you can weave more magic into your world. So that's totally an option. But yeah, practicing doing these monthly new and or full moon rituals, it's a beautiful way to work with the cycles and to be really intentional about what you're putting out every month, what you're looking to accomplish every month, and to bring in that lunar energy is such an enriching way to work with your calendar. Number 7, tarot or oracle readings. Now, if you are not a tarot expert, no problem. Oracle is actually a little bit easier. You can pick up any deck of cards, tarot or oracle, and shuffle them and just pick up a card and sit with the image of the card, see what intuitively comes to you, and just, again, open yourself up to those messages. And you can read the little book that comes with the tarot or oracle deck to read the messages if you're not feeling anything concrete coming through. So I love that because it's such an easy thing to do. If you wanted to work that into, let's say, your morning routine, every morning while you're brushing your teeth, you can pick a card and just stare at it while you brush your teeth and see what comes through. Or read the little booklet while you brush your teeth. And it's such a nice way for you to get some insight into your day. So with the oracle or tarot card, you could open yourself up to just receiving whatever card is meant to come to you. Or You can pose a question and then select a card. So you might say something like, um, okay, Oracle deck, uh, what advice do you have for me as I go on this job interview later today? Or if you don't have something that specific, you might ask, how might I make the most of this day today? The sky's the limit, really. Okay, at number 8, a gratitude journal. There's something so healing and so grounding about taking a moment to look around and take note of what you're grateful for. I like to do this at night, right before bed. I have another journal. I have my morning pages journal, and then I have my nighttime gratitude journal on my nightstand next to my bed. So I like to take a moment right before bed and write one thing that I'm grateful for. And it's really beautiful to go back in time and say, like, oh, look at that. On January 14th of last year, I was really grateful for the nice time I spent with my parents, or whatever the case may be. And this gratitude journal does not need to be a whole essay. It could be a sentence, it could be a word. Sometimes, especially on days where you're just not feeling your best, or if you've had a shitty day, finding something to be grateful for can feel a little bit more challenging. Sometimes my gratitude journal entries are full and poetic and enlightened and heartwarming. And other times I would write something like, I'm glad I made it through today. Or, I'm grateful to have hot water that I can shower with. Or, I'm grateful to be really comfy in my bed right now. So the level of gratitude and what you're grateful about can vary greatly, but regardless of what you bring to the forefront that you're grateful about, just the practice alone is incredibly enriching. Okay, number 9, and actually this kind of ties into number 5 a little bit with giving offerings to your deities. Number 9 is offering your actions. So what I mean by that is that you can take any practice that you already do and offer it as an offering to your deity. So one of my mentors, she works out quite a bit, and every time she exercises, she will set the intention and kind of say it out loud that she is offering this energy she is, summoning up in her body and spewing out as an offering to her deity. So the adrenaline that she gathers as she runs, she's offering that to her deity as fuel, or as a commitment. And so I remember, like, another example of that, I remember I moved to a new house a couple of years ago. I was there for a year, and I did this house cleansing ritual, and I made an offering to a deity to help me protect the house, to keep me and my fiance safe, and to help us make this a really lovely place to live. And so as an offering, I offered to do yoga every single day for an hour for 7 days. And so it was like a little bit of a negotiation or a bit of an exchange, right? Please help me protect my home and make this a beautiful place to live. And in exchange, I give you my energy and my yoga practice for a week. Now, I love yoga, but I'm not someone who does it consistently every single day. So showing up to the mat every single day for an hour, that was a big offering for me, but it felt really right. And it felt like a deal. Like, we made a deal. I asked for protection for my home, and I offered this practice, so I was going to see it through, and I did. And then finally, at number 10, pausing to just be intentional and to be really present in the moment, that is probably the easiest thing that you can do right now to get your spiritual practice going. Is just catching yourself throughout the day at any point during the day and just pausing long enough to just look around and take inventory of what's in front of you, to soak up the beauty of what's in front of you. And if, let's say you're in a really ugly office and you don't have anything beautiful to look at, you can just close your eyes and remember a really beautiful moment or picture the ocean. I'm talking about just pausing long enough to take a deep breath and be in your body and come back to yourself and maybe say something nice to yourself. I have it in my daily habit tracker to give myself a compliment each day. And so I've been doing that. I've been pausing. Whenever I catch myself like being too busy or being too in my mind, I will pause and give myself a compliment, and brownie points if you do it in front of a mirror. Now, just like with your gratitude practice, your compliments might sometimes be really profound and meaningful, and other times they might just be very quick and like, all right, this is the best I can say about myself to myself right now. So sometimes I'll look at myself in the mirror and I will say, Jasleni, you are smart and funny and brilliant, and I'm really proud of you, right? And I'll really mean it in that moment. And other times I'll look at myself and say, well, you've got decent eyebrows, so there's that, and I will walk away, and that'll be my compliment for the day. It varies. We're human. We're just doing our best. So those are my 10 tips for how you can get started with your spiritual practice and make it sustainable. So we're going to make it sustainable by keeping it simple, by choosing 1, maybe 2, and if you're really advanced, maybe 3 things that you can implement. We're not going to aim for perfection. We are just going to show up for ourselves. Really, that's the commitment, is what can you do? What can you add to your list that you will consistently show up for? If you can pick one thing, then I would say you're doing really, really good. All right, let me know what you think about this. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you want to dive in deeper and have support around making these practices or really integrating it into your life, at the Amaryllis Society, this is something that we do often. We do co-working sessions and creative time sessions, and we have meetups several times a week where we can put a lot of these things into practice. So you could absolutely do it on your own if you wish, but you don't have to.